Hello. We're doing 21 days of personal development, and this is day 15 already. Today's talk is a little bit different. Today we're talking about impediments in our lives, and I've titled this talk, "What is life coaching?" because the impediments that we find in our lives tends to be the topics that life coaching often helps with. Impediments is a word it's a very old English word. We don't really use it in today's language. We don't tend to talk about impediments, but the dictionary definition is very appropriate for today's talk. And I'm going to read to you the dictionary definition. An impediment is something that delays or stops the progress of something. The impediments in our lives delay or stop the progress, the changes that we're trying to make in our lives. Maybe we're trying to implement a habit, or we're trying to improve an aspect of our lives. Impediments are the things that get in the way. And I've made a list of 10 impediments that I come across when I work with clients. Now, impediments could be anything. This is not an exhaustive list at all, but for what it's worth, I hope that you find this list useful, and I hope that it helps to explain a little bit more about what life coaching is. So let's jump in and take a look at the list. So one of the things that often pops up is our thoughts, believing our thoughts. The thoughts that we have in our head, we accept as true very often, but they aren't necessarily true. When we realize that we don't have to believe everything that we think, it can make an incredible difference to our lives. And that is one that I often work with clients. A second one is believing that if we're going to try something or change something or make an attempt at doing something new, that the fear will go away. And that's not true. In many cases, when we need to take a step to do something in our lives, whether it's a goal that we're trying to reach or a habit that we're trying to break, or some improvement in our life that we're trying to achieve, the fear that we might be feeling is very rarely going to disappear. In many cases, in most cases, we actually need to take that step despite the fear. And the third one on this list is a similar one, and also often gets in the way, and that's waiting to have confidence. Most people who try something new don't feel that they're ready. Many people don't want to take that step, take that jump, because they think they will feel they'll feel as if they are able to do it, that they are ready to do it. And it's very rare that when we're starting something, when we're changing something, when we're trying something new, it's very rare that we would feel, oh, I've got this. I feel like I'm ready to do this. I have the confidence already. Confidence is something that we build as we build competence. So when you're trying something new, you're not going to have that confidence. The fourth one is, and this one pops up a lot, and that's perfectionism, or this idea that we need to keep up with the Joneses. The easy answer is we don't. But perfectionism is a giant struggle for many people. And it's not very surprising why it's a giant struggle. The world is constantly telling us that we need to lose weight, have clear skin, that we need to, remove the wrinkles, cover the gray hair. Where's my gray hair here? That we need to do all of these things to look better, be better. This whole idea that we need to constantly get as close to perfection as we can, that is something that comes from marketing and trying to sell products. It has very little to do with actually being a human being. The fifth the fifth impediment that people often struggle with is comparing themselves to others. Now, every single one of us has a completely unique path, a completely unique history, a completely unique set of circumstances. And when we compare ourselves to others, we look at it as if we're comparing apples to apples. And we are very rarely comparing apples to apples. In fact, in many cases, we are comparing ourselves and our set of circumstances to someone else's set of circumstances that has nothing at all in similarity or doesn't remotely mirror our own set of circumstances. If we're looking at how someone else our age is doing, and we think, oh, look at us and look at them, like, we're trying to compare that. That's not accurate. I mean, I'm just going to, off the top of my head, name a few things that would be possibly very different in people's lives. What is each person's health? What is each person's childhood? What levels of help have they had in their life? Where have they had lucky breaks? At what points did they experience challenges? At what points did they have to overcome things? And often, the thing that we should be doing instead of comparing is to actually take a broader look at our lives. If we look at just, I'm now 40, and what are other people who are 40? Like that, what have they achieved or whatever? That's really stupid, because yes, I'm 40 next month in May, but I have got 2 incurable illnesses. I came out of a childhood that included being, raped. I spent the majority of my 20s trying not to kill myself. I had quite a few issues with suicide attempts. And my second incurable illness was only diagnosed when I was 33. So I had about at least 10 years, if not 15 years before that, of severe malnutrition. I mean, and that's just my life. And okay, my life has some more extreme examples, but what did you deal with in your life if you look at the whole of your life? Did people you love pass away? Did your parents get divorced? Did you have to work 2 jobs at certain points in your life? Did you struggle to find jobs? Did you have struggles with unemployment? Did you have interpersonal problems going on in your life? Did you have a marriage that was struggling? Did you have children that you needed to care for? Having young children and teenagers is a huge job. I mean, what were you trying to do during those periods of your life where you're comparing yourself with someone else? But I mean, you can't compare. We're not apples and apples. Sorry, I've gone into way too much on this comparing thing, but I feel strongly about it because it's something that we really, really do, and we shouldn't, because most of us throughout our lives have done the very best that we could with the set of choices and circumstances and resources and health and everything else that we were trying to deal with. And to compare ourselves just based on age or something like that is not really fair. So we're not being fair to ourselves if we're comparing ourselves. The sixth impediment that people often struggle with is an impatience with how quickly things actually happen. Expecting things to happen quickly rather than realizing that life is a process. Change and improvements in our life and getting things right, it's a process. It doesn't just happen. We don't, wake up and then we're brilliant at playing the guitar overnight. No, it's years of practicing and years of disciplining ourselves to get good at playing the guitar or whatever else we're trying to do. And every single thing that we're trying to do in our lives will take a different set of time, a different time frame, but it is a time frame. So getting impatient with ourselves and expecting things to have happened or to happen quicker can be a very big impediment. The seventh one, am I counting correctly, is engaging in the blame game. And another one on this is, if we're justifying things, basically it's making excuses rather than taking responsibility for our own lives and our own decisions and our own actions. We can always find a gazillion things to blame, but never, ever, ever, ever is blaming other things, other people, other circumstances a valid excuse. And that's a bit harsh perhaps to say, but it never, ever, ever is appropriate to blame. When we actually accept responsibility for ourselves and our own lives, that is where the power is. That is where change can happen. That is where improvements in our life can happen. So as long as you're making excuses, as long as you're blaming people or other things, I'm sorry to say it, but you won't gain the improvement, self-development, and changes in your life that you're hoping for. Sorry, but that's my honest opinion. Another impediment that's obviously a big one is not having clear goals. And I'm not going to go into details about that, but goals are important. And when we reach a goal, we need to set a new one. Goals are very, very important. They give us direction and focus, and without direction and focus, we're just, like a bull in a china shop, and we don't know where we're trying to go. And then a big one, very big one, is critical self-talk. Now, it's important to mention here that we are always going to have self-talk. There's never a time when we're going to not have self-talk. And also, we are always going to have critical self-talk. So, to counteract that, we need to learn that our thoughts are separate from ourselves. They're not a part of us. Thought comes into our head, and we can actually talk back to that thought. If we just let the thought go in our head, if we let it stay there, maybe even dwell on it, our brain accepts it as a truth when it might not be a truth. In fact, it probably isn't. And it's important that we realize that our thoughts are separate from us and that we need to talk back to our thoughts. When we talk back to our thoughts, we give our brain extra information, and then our brain uses that extra information to process. So basically, if we say to ourselves, oh my word, that was such a stupid thing I did, and we don't correct that thought, our brain accepts that. Oh, you did something stupid. But if we talk back to our thought and we instead say, like, no. I'm normally very much on the ball. I very rarely get things wrong like this. I do things right often, like really regularly. We need to talk back to our thoughts, and we need to get into a habit of continuously and in an ongoing manner talking back to our thoughts. When we do that, that is how we take ourselves from a negative mindset and negative thought patterns to supportive thought patterns and a mindset that is in our favor, which is obviously what we want. But the only way we get there is by talking back to the thoughts that pop into our head. If you're a Christian, you can throw a Bible verse at it. You can throw anything at a thought that you believe, any truth. You can't just throw things at your thought that you don't believe. You can't throw things at your thought that you don't, that is not a truth. That's not going to help anything. The way you combat a negative thought is by throwing truth at it. Now, the last one, the last impediment, on the surface does look like it's there's no way past it. And that is a lack of support. But the trick with a lack of support isn't that we don't always have the support we need. And some people have more of a problem with this, some people have less of a problem with this, but we all face this at some point in our lives where we don't have anyone who agrees with what we're trying to do. We don't have anyone who's being encouraging and supportive of what we're trying to do. But the trick is if we have a lack of support and we do not put any effort into finding support. That's the trick. Because even if we have no support, we can just start looking for people and organizations and places that we can get some support. And I'll admit, this lack of support one does look very, 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 very challenging, and it is one of the more challenging ones. Not necessarily the most challenging though on this list. There are some of these others that can actually be even more of an impediment and more of a block. But a lack of support is a huge one, but don't use that as an excuse. Take that impediment and proactively go out and look for support. Ask for support. Find the support that you need. Because no matter where you are in your life, no matter what your level of success is in your life, you are always going to come across points in your life where you don't actually have support. Whether you are living in poverty right now, or whether you are, leading something and in an outward way look very successful. Having a lack of support is something that will continuously crop up in your life. And whenever you face that, you need to be proactive about going out and searching for support that you need. That's it from me for today. I hope that this is giving you a little bit more insight into the kind of things that life coaches do, the kind of impediments that life coaches help people to work through. I'll leave you with this thought. Every single one of these impediments on this list can be overcome. Every single one of these impediments are things that I have either worked with in my own life and overcome in my own life, or worked with clients, or both. Every single one of these can be overcome. And of course, as I said, this list of impediments is not exhaustive. There are other things that we could encounter, but we can overcome them. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day.